Greetings. This video is called 100 Things You Should Know Before You Go to Stanford, Harvard, Yale, etc., etc. What happened was that I would say about 10 years ago now, I was at a free Stanford event and a student rolled up on me and said, you know, is there anything that you'd recommend me thinking about before going to Stanford? And I looked at her and I was kind of shocked because um, I could think of 100 really quick things that she should consider. And I just, had so many thoughts that I couldn't even begin to throw them at her. And so I just gave her a simple solution and left it at that. I then went back and actually started writing a document that I call 100 Things You Should Know Before You Go to Stanford, Harvard, Yale, etc. And I I've kept it on paper to date, but I get multiple requests each year from people who've gotten copies of this and asked me to follow on. Because what I typically do is provide the first 25 and ask people to contact me. Um, and a big part of it is that I actually have like 500 things. The other part of it is that depending on the interest of the student, the direction I send them in may be way different for one person than the other post the first 25. So let me start and use the time I have up to the 10 minutes on this video to focus on, let's say, the first 25. And then depending on feedback, etc., I can go further on my list. So one of the subsets of what I cover is weather-related issues. So in a place like Stanford, unlike on the East Coast, um, uh, the weather at Stanford can go from, about 30 degrees to 80 degrees back to 30, all in about 8 or 9 hours. So one of the things I covered was that managing your dress is something, or managing your wardrobe is appropriate. So if you're from one part of the country moving to the other, you may want to note what the dress habits are for different times of year, because you'd be surprised that it may be other than you thought to be the case. The second item that comes to mind that's worth viewing across the board is what I call managing the nerd factor. So one of the famous stories of Stanford that I heard was that there's a guy named David Packard. He was a dishwasher in a girls' dorm at Stanford and started dating that one of the ladies in the dorm. Her sorority threatened to kick her out because she was dating the dishwasher. She ended up marrying him, and as you all know, there's a company called Hewlett Packard. David Packard and Lucille Packard are pretty much the largest donors ever to Stanford University, and her sorority was trying to get her to break up with him because he was a dishwasher while he was in college. What this lesson really gets into is a concept that says that there's some really smart people around you as you're at these schools, and um, being mean to the nerds might be bad for your future, because you might find out that the nerd you're dissing ends up being your boss in the future. So some of the nerdiest folks who are socially awkward are often some of the best engineers that end up generating and producing companies that make a big difference in dent. And by treating them poorly, you get the raw end of that stick in the future. The third item that I wanted to review with you is unlike, there's some of it in high school, but unlike high school, most universities have something called office hours. So pick any famous professor at a famous university you can think of right now and type in their name. What you'll notice is that if you want a meeting with them, you can actually go to what are called their office hours, and where they're required to be in the office, and sit down and chat with them. One of my suggestions was doing what I call front-loaded office hours, which is to take the time to spend time with those professors early in the semester before there are heavy assignments that people are trying to get information on. And by doing so, you get to develop a rapport with that professor that you won't get when you just have a few minutes at the end of the semester. Um, the other thing is that these professors will be the source of your recommendations for the future relative to work in grad school. So by you developing a personal relationship early when there's no time pressure, it frees you up to now have a rapport with that professor that will help feed the process of your future in terms of recommendations, etc. The next recommendation I have is do not eat in the same dorm all the time. So when classes are designed at the top, let's say 10 or 20 schools, and even beyond that, there's a range of attributes that are brought to campus in terms of student and student quality. So if you make a point of developing a pattern of going to the exact same place all the time for your meals, you get to know that group of people well, but you miss out on the opportunity to meet smart people across the university. So what I recommend is try to eat at a different table or in a different dorm as much as you can, but also take some time to perhaps have meals in professional schools like the med school or law school or business school according to interest. But you'll notice that these folks are multiple years ahead of you and might have really good ideas that you might want to consider as you think about whether or not those are career paths you might want to go to, and advice that may have relative to that. The next idea, I think we're at 5 at this point, and my 10 minutes is going to be up quickly, is what I call a personal board of directors. So what this is about is that every one of the schools, depending on the major you articulated coming in, will assign you to a professor, to advise you generally on preparing to enter the field that they're in. I recommend that you consider having 3 people on your board. Just like a board of trustees for that university, you want to have multiple perspectives of people that are multiple years older than you are, because they'll provide insights to you that will allow you to be more effective with your time. A more formal illustration of how this works is there's actually a book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And in that book, he recommends creating something called a mastermind group. And I highly recommend you take some time to take a look at that chapter in that book, because it actually gives you some terrific ideas of things to consider. The next recommendation I have is what I want to call a deep dive on the professors you're with. So even if you're in high school right now, and then subsequently you're going to be heading into college, by taking a deep dive, I mean sit down with your professor, find out where they went to high school, where they went to college, where they went to graduate school, etc., and why they made all those choices. At an elite university like a Stanford or a Harvard, most of those professors have multiple written items that distinguish them in their fields. If you're going to take a class from them, a smart move might be take some time and go to the library and look at their thesis. What was the topic? It might be above you in terms of understanding, but what university did they do it at? How did they choose where they did it? How did they make the choices that they made about their academic career path that might end up being a path that you might choose in terms of meeting professors that are in interesting topics, and then you end up doing the deep dive or focusing on that subject over time. So always a good idea for the deep dive. I'm at 9:17 right now, and I think I'm going to stop here at item number 6 and then restart to continue in my next video. Thank you, and have a good day.